Monday, March 5th, 2018. It is 7:45. We're starting a bit late. Real quick, for those who are here, and I'm not sure if you heard my explanation before, but there was 3 items scheduled tonight, all at the same time. Early voting ended at 7:30. We had a public hearing scheduled for our TIF and our regular city council meeting. So we appreciate your patience. We certainly had to make sure that all of the voting stuff got locked up before we let people in. So that's why we're starting a little bit late. At this time, I'm going to ask you all to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. And these young ladies here from Field School, Troop 55705, they claim they're in kindergarten, but they act a lot older. I'm going to ask you ladies, come on up. Jane, you're leading everybody, remember? They're going to lead us in the pledge.
Keep going.
Right there. Let's wait for your whole team. Come on, ladies.
Yeah.
Hadley, you want to join us? Is Hadley coming? She's good? All right. Guys, I want you to, everyone make sure that you can see the flag here, right here next to Alderman York. Right hand. Here we go. Jane, hit it. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very good. Okay. You can now walk off stage, and you can stay for the whole meeting or none of it. Recommend the latter.
She doesn't want to.
Clerk Spencer, please call the roll.
Oh, I think this is mine.
Polemski.
Here.
Graham.
Here.
Toledo.
Here.
York.
Here.
Levin.
Here.
Park.
Here.
Honquist.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
Brennan.
Here.
Sabatino.
Here.
Deuter.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Leader.
Here.
14 present, 0 absent.
14 present, 0 absent. We have a quorum. We are in session. We're going to mix things up a little bit here on the agenda. Clearly, the IC football team wants to make a dramatic entrance. We are honoring them tonight, but I would prefer if they were here when we honored them. So, rumor has it they're on their way. So we're going to, oh, hey, Mr. Hipskin.
They are on their way.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to wait for them. We'll push them down in the agenda until they show up. Well, without any further ado, we're going to go on to agenda item. We're going to skip to agenda item 3.1. This is a public hearing that is required for us to do for the downtown tax increment financing redevelopment area. There's a public hearing scheduled for this evening. The public hearing concerns the proposed City of Elmhurst Downtown Tax Increment Financing District. That being said, I hereby convey the public hearing to consider the approval of the redevelopment plan and project, the designation of a redevelopment project area to be known as the Downtown Redevelopment Project Area, and the adoption of tax increment allocation financing. Other than the public hearing, the City Council will take no action tonight concerning this matter. Tonight, we will take public comment from all interested persons or affected taxing districts concerning the approval of the redevelopment plan and project, the designation of the redevelopment project area, and the adoption of tax increment financing for the TIF district. At this time, we have a short presentation from the city's consultant. Is Mr. Rich Licky here? There he is. Concerning the proposed TIF district. Mr. Rich Licky?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council.
We did.
Where we are today is really moving along on the process that was started in at the end of 2017, and actually, partly in 2016 when the city considered its downtown plan and also amendments or changes that were made to your comprehensive plan. What we're planning to do is break the presentation into 4 steps. We're going to talk a little bit of the background as it relates to the area that we're studying, how the area qualifies under state law, key elements or summary of the TIF plan, and next steps in the process.
All right.
The primary focus is the downtown area. We're going to look at the map. This is the area in question. Includes both a mix of institutional properties, commercial, retail, and some residential within the boundaries of the TIF district. Again, this is a continuation of following up on opportunities as it relates to the downtown area. Again, your 2016 downtown plan and zoning changes that the city has considered over the last year or so are related to keeping the downtown a vibrant area in order to keep proactive within the marketplace and address some of the constraints or challenges associated with older downtown areas, some of which, again, this is a continuation of work that the city has done over the last several years. Again, as the TIF is considered, it's part of the overall planning for the area. It's a part of the comprehensive plan. It's part of the downtown plan. The challenges that the city faces, again, it's not uncommon in terms of any other older downtown areas. The ages of the buildings, smaller footprints, smaller sites, market requirements as it relates to mixed-use properties, infrastructure issues, as both parking as well as other public or capital improvements, and area circulation. Again, the TIF is a means to an end to assist the city in terms of addressing some of these constraints and providing a method of financing as well as coordination, most importantly, coordination within the downtown area. In order to move ahead with the TIF, there are certain legal provisions which the city has complied with in terms of conformance with the city's comprehensive plan as well as its planning processes. Its contiguous parcels that exceed 1.5 acres, and a but-for requirement is also met that the city believes as part of the redevelopment potential for the area, it could only be achieved through the utilization of the TIF program. And again, this doesn't occur in a vacuum. The TIF plan is part of overall economic development goals that the city has had for the downtown. It ties into comprehensive land use requirements. So again, the TIF is part of the overall layering of other initiatives, including the city's entitlement programs that are associated with the downtown area. TIF itself is, as I said, more of a financing plan. The key points of the TIF are it's not a new tax. It's not like a special assessment or a special service area tax. The revenues are directly associated with increases in the equalized assessed valuation over what's called a base amount. The base amount of valuation is determined by the county clerk's office. Once that amount is in play, that base goes over a 23-year period, and any increases in value due to expansion, new construction, properties in the TIF pay the same taxes. They're assessed the same way uniformly by the assessor's office, whether they're within or outside of the TIF district, and the same tax rate also applies. What happens is this bifurcation really of revenues. The amounts that are over the red line are the TIF increment, and those amounts are returned to a special tax fund or special tax allocation fund that the city of Elmhurst controls. That's subject to an independent audit and annual reports that are shared with all the taxing districts as well as the state of Illinois. The base taxes, or taxes that are up to the red line, continue to return back to all the other taxing districts over the term of the TIF. Again, this is the area in question. Again, it includes the core area of the downtown. And again, the land uses are such that there's institutional, primarily to the south. Between Addison and York, you have a number of both commercial, retail, and some mixed-use properties. And that continues out also south on York. In order to go through with the TIF plan, the area has to be known to, has to be made to qualify. And in this case, because of the characteristics of the area, and this primarily is the age of the buildings, it is qualified as a conservation area. And the threshold factor there is 50% of the buildings have to be determined to be 35 years old or greater. In this case, 85% of the buildings are 35 years old or greater. In fact, we'll get into another slide. The age is actually a lot greater for many of the buildings within this area. Once you pass the conservation area threshold, there's 13 TIF factors, and you have to identify 5 that are present. We've identified those 5 factors, and again, it has to be contiguous. You see by the map that the area is contiguous as it relates to its boundaries, and there's the potential for redevelopment and improvement to the tax base as a result of the implementation of the TIF. These are the 13 factors that the TIF Act includes. Again, we need a minimum of 3. We've identified 5, and those are summarized in the eligibility report. In this case, we found obsolescence is present, deterioration, inadequate utilities, deleterious layout, and lagging or declining valuation. Obsolescence, as I said earlier, is associated in part with the age of the buildings and the characteristics of the inventory there. 40% of the buildings are between 80 years and over 100 years old in terms of, again, the challenges that are presented relating to both building infrastructure as well as retrofitting are present there. It also has impacts as it relates to the availability of functional space. So requirements in the marketplace as it relates to different building finishes or build out have an impact, as well as the requirements for larger footprints or consolidation of sites. And there's impacts on the development budget as a result of that. And the TIF is one of the methods or possible method to try to equalize or address those factors in order to stay competitive. Deterioration was found for about 40% of the parcels. Most of the deterioration was really in the site improvements, although we found components in building components was also identified as part of our site surveys. Inadequate utilities was identified, and this was in consultation with city staff, relating to both the water and sanitary systems as well as the sewers, storm sewer, both in a function of age in terms of 40 years old or greater, as well as actual condition. Other requirements related to the presence of overhead utilities and relocation requirements. And again, that is an additional cost of redevelopment, which the TIF is in place to try to equalize or address in order to induce redevelopment to occur. Deleterious layout primarily relates to area circulation, also has tie-ins to parking and buffering between adjacent uses. And again, part of this, we relied on findings that were also made in the city's downtown plan and prior traffic studies that had been done in past years. The lagging or declining EAV, the TIF Act, again, has 3 tests. Either there's been 3 years of decline out of the last 5 for which information is available, or it lags behind that of the CPI, or lags behind that of the balance of the city's growth. In this case, we actually have the evidence of all 3 are present. So from the standpoint, before we get into the TIF plan, again, from the standpoint of eligibility, in our opinion, the city has met the threshold factor as well as the identification of at least 3, in this case 5 factors of the 13 that are present for the qualification of the conservation area. Based upon information from the county clerk's office, we identified that that base, that red line that we saw in that previous chart, would be $25,871,590. This is the amount that the taxing districts as well as the city continue to be able to receive taxes on any amount over that over the term of the TIF district. That incremental, those incremental receipts return to a TIF fund, which would be utilized within the boundaries of that TIF area that we saw in a previous slide. The projected EAV in this case Again, this is in part based on market conditions and actual projects that would be implemented in the future, is $75 million to $95 million. That's really the blue line that we saw on that other chart. That is the game plan for the TIF that with the utilization of the TIF program, we would see a more accelerated increase or a larger increase in valuation within that area. The budget is $90,700,000, but I just want to point out two things. That's a 23-year amount. It's based upon actual receipt of dollars and is tied to projects being implemented. That is not a check for those amounts to be paid in the next several years. Again, it's tied closely to money coming in or receipts coming in, and the city's determination, the city council's determination that these amounts would be utilized for actual both public or for private projects. So the key number really on that page is the bottom number. That's an amount that cannot be exceeded. The city does have the ability, because it's over a 23-year period, to shift amounts between the line items, but again, the bottom number is the not to exceed number. And as per normal, all expenditures would be subject to city approvals, determination of appropriateness of costs, and similar to your other TIF districts, there's a special independent TIF audit review with the other taxing districts and submission of that report with the State of Illinois Comptroller's Office. At this point today is a public hearing, which is really the culmination of a series of notices that the city was required to adhere to over the last 2 or 3 months. Notices were sent out to taxpayers of record. There were 2 newspaper notices. Notices were sent to addresses within 750 feet of the boundaries. And again, notices were also sent to the taxing districts and to the state of Illinois. There was a joint review board which was held a month ago, in which the city received a majority approval from the taxing districts present as it related to the reasonableness of the program and a recommendation for the city to proceed. Tonight, no action will be taken. The purpose is to hear public comments, and once the public hearing is closed, the city then has, again, and this is all pursuant to the TIF statute, the navigation is you have to wait a minimum of 14 days, but no more than 90 days to introduce any ordinances for designation. And Mr. Mayor, that concludes our presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Richlicki. To continue with this hearing, has the city clerk received any written comments regarding the proposed TIF district?
No, Mayor, I have not.
At this time, is there anyone in the audience who has any written comments they wish to submit to the clerk to have noted into the record? Any written comments? Please raise your hand if you have any. Seeing none, we're going to go on to city staff. At this time, is there any city staff that wishes to offer any additional comment?
Not at this time.
Okay. At this time, those wishing to comment should step forward and state their name. Give me 1 minute. State your name. We are recording this. Address is optional. I'm going to start with the sign-up sheet that we had, and then any of those who did not have an opportunity to sign up certainly will have an opportunity to speak as well. Clerk Spencer, do we have anybody who signed up? We had 3 different sign-up sheets over there, right?
Yes, we did, Mayor.
Okay, so we had one specifically for this TIF hearing. Do you have anybody who has signed up for public comment for the TIF hearing?
Yes, I do.
Okay, how many do we have, just so we get an idea?
We have 4 that signed up.
Great, okay, let's get started. Oh, I'm sorry, when Clerk Spencer calls your name, please make your way over to the right, my right, your left, the microphone right underneath the vent there. Clerk Spencer, please.
Chris LaBounty.
Good evening. My name is Chris LaBounty, and I'm a commissioner on the Elmhurst Economic Development Commission. I am also an Elmhurst resident and a principal with May Real Estate, LLC in Oak Brook. I'm here to share with you that the EDC...
Mr. LaBounty, hold on 1 second. I'm not sure that mic's on. Can you, or either speak, can you tap it? Okay.
Better?
Start again, please.
Okay. My name is Chris LaBounty, and I am a commissioner on the Elmhurst Economic Development Commission. I am also an Elmhurst resident and a principal with May Real Estate, LLC in Oak Brook. I'm here to share with you that the EDC, at its meeting of February 23rd, unanimously endorsed the creation of the downtown TIF in the Elmhurst City Center. It did so for these primary reasons. The overall success of TIF 1 in providing resources and incentives for the betterment of the downtown/city center area, the fact that a vibrant and healthy downtown area will continue to be needed for Elmhurst's ongoing success, and the downtown TIF would help to assure that outcome. Success in Elmhurst downtown is an attribute that will help economic development throughout the city. And finally, TIFs in Elmhurst have been administered very successfully, and that track record provides incentive for this endorsement by the EDC. Thank you.
Mary Tyson.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to comment. My name is Mary Tyson. I'm a resident of Elmhurst for about 30 years. I understand that the city, through eminent domain, has or will acquire the property on the west side of York from 2nd Street to 3rd Street. Given that the TIF district is proposed, how will the city finance this acquisition? I want to express concern about this. Thank you.
Greg Vanderland.
Thank you. My name is Greg Vanderlaan. I live in Elmhurst. The December 2017 draft TIF plan prepared by KMA lays out the $91 million estimated budget and cost to complete the program. It also estimates the assessed value over the 23-year period to reach $75 to $95 million. My question is, where in that range must you see the equalized assessed value growth to cover the $91 million investment? Thank you.
And the last person to sign in, Tamara Brenner.
She's going to talk forever.
Sorry. Tamara Brenner, also a resident of Elmhurst since 2002. So the downtown TIF has been in place for way longer than I've been a resident of downtown, or resident of Elmhurst, and it'll probably be there for as long as I live in Elmhurst, the way things are going. It's already been in place for 23 years plus 12, minus the few years you're going to shave off the top right now. Starting over again for another 23 years, and presumably another 12. Actually, what was just said earlier tonight kind of indicated that the business community, or the economic development community, is going to want this thing to stay in place in perpetuity. Why not? Because we always need a vibrant downtown, and apparently the TIF is the way to do that. That's not my understanding of what TIF districts are supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be spurring development, but don't we have a whole bunch of development that's happened now? Didn't the TIF do its job, and can't it be finished at some point? Or is it going to be there in perpetuity? This public hearing is required by the TIF law. If it weren't required, you wouldn't be holding it. And I'm not sure that well, actually I am sure you're not going to do anything different because of the public hearing. One of the few articles I read in one of the local newspapers already says that on March 19th that TIF 1 would be terminated and there'll be a final approval by the council of the next one. And you'll transmit the papers to the DuPage County Clerk on March 20th. So that's 2 weeks. Why wait? You got 90 days, but you're going to be ready to go as soon as it's possible to do that. I'm still wondering who's going to benefit from this, because it doesn't seem like there needs to be a rush, but you guys are rushing this through. The but-for test is, to put it mildly, just ridiculous. You can claim anything you want as a but-for. You can say it's not going to happen but for this or that. I like to claim that the moon is made of green cheese, and because I said it, does that make it true? That's pretty much what the but-for test accomplishes. The law that specifies these 13 criteria, are pretty basic criteria, and buildings over 35 years, well, 35 years is the length of a TIF when you add the extension on there, so pretty much any area you choose, you can draw lines around it and create TIF districts anywhere. I think it's an abuse of a financing tool that's meant for blighted areas. It's being misused by many municipalities, not just this one. It's widespread. I wish it weren't there. I don't like that our public money is going to subsidize private development, and I don't find it to be a good thing for me. It might be good for the individuals involved, but it isn't a good thing in the end for me. I don't feel like I'm getting my money's worth, and I am opposed to the redesignation of this area as a TIF. Thanks.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, that's it for those who signed in. For those wishing to make comment at the hearing, is there anybody in the audience who wishes to make a comment who did not have an opportunity to sign in? Please raise your hand so I can identify you. Okay, anyone else? All right. Mr. Pragash?
Well, same story was told 35 years ago. We create a TIF. We're going to redevelop the downtown area. Same story tonight. When I first came to this town, there was something downtown. You could buy furniture, hardware store, books, clothing. Today you have nothing but restaurants. Consultant says the buildings are almost 100 years old. Well, the people that own them, I guess they feel they are doing well enough. They didn't sell their property. They didn't tear down their property, put up a new structure. But they were in a TIF, weren't they? So we're going to start it all over again. And amazingly, the buildings will come down, new buildings will go up, the tax base will increase. Oh, we're going to do a Wilder Park. We're going to give that up? Put buildings there? What are we going to do with the school board facilities? Buy it from them, tear it down? There's always a promise that something is going to happen. It's going to be redeveloped. It's going to look modern. In that whole area, what we got is a garage. Plaza finally went out of business, so somebody bought that. So I guess if all those businesses down there selling hamburgers and eggs and bacon decide to go out of business, well, maybe the owners will sell the buildings. But I think you're going to have a hell of a time going down there and telling a guy that's making money to give up the building to put up something new. They haven't done it in 35 years. They aren't going to do it in another 35 years. So here we go again. It's a promise that was never achieved in all the years it existed. And another promise that just because we're going to do it again, it's all going to be recreated at the expense of the residents, but that's okay. So this promise, you're positive of it, right? And the aldermen and mayors that sit in your place 30 years from now will be saying the same thing. We got to create a TIF again in the same area because it's going to be redeveloped. It surely is. But you won't be here. They will be. And they will make the same promise. But until those people that own that property feel they're not making a buck, they're not going to give it up. They may have to pay a little more taxes, but if they're willing to have a building stand for 100 years, and the city department, the fire department says it's fine, building department says it's fine structure. So if it's existed that long, under the auspices of this fine city that they are suitable to be used and used again, then in fact, what do you want to create a TIF for? You're making promises you can't keep. And I lived in this town about 30 years. You had a better town downtown than you have today. You can walk from First all the way to Grand Avenue and eat yourself silly. It's probably why you built all those exercise outfits. So don't make promises that are not achievable. If you own the land, that's one thing. You don't. And the people that do aren't going to give it up easily. They made too much money over too many years. And don't take their promise they're going to give it up. And don't tell me in 35 years it's going to look different. And since the Park District doesn't pay taxes, and the school board doesn't pay taxes, why are they included? What are you going to do with Wilder Park? It's a nice piece of open land. Is that all going to wind up with high rises? Nobody's talking. So dream on. You'll vote for it. Sure you will. And the public will pay. And we'll have more restaurants, and more fitness outfits.
Okay, any other comments? Any other comments? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Alderman Mulliner, second by Alderman Honquest. Clerk Spencer, I think, should we do a roll call? Yeah, we're going to do a roll call to close the public hearing. Yeah.
Okay,
Motion to close the public hearing by Alderman Mulliner, second by Alderman Honquest.
okay. Polemski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Toledo. Aye. York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Lundquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner. Brennan.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. That closes our public hearing. Before we get into written communications, Mr. Faldudo, do you think the team's here? Can you have them come on in, please?
Or understand the TIF.
Want the boys up front? While I'm talking? All right. Do they know that?
No. Well, yeah, Tom told him to come up in the middle.
Just come up and line up here and face that lectern right next to Alderman Mulliner. So right there's good. Back it up a little. Perfect.
I'll go down to the dais. Come on in and kind of fill in here, boys.
They've
Roll
gotta
by
be,
roll.
right?
Blocking my view. No, I'm just using. You're fine. You guys are champions. Do what you want.
Congrats.
Jeez, how many guys you got? How many guys you got on the team? Yeah, it's varsity.
Why don't you guys start a second row?
Yeah, watch your step, guys.
Total.
And a third row.
So okay, okay.
Holy cow, look at this.
So this is freshman through senior.
Sure, everybody's here.
Okay.
Like a whole football team.
Hey, boom, boom.
I love the personal attention.
We'll just turn over the meeting to the football.
Hey, guys, how many people on your team?
Jack Ryan.
50.
How's it going?
Complain about tips now?
Should hand them in early.
All right.
We're going to wait just a minute, make sure everyone comes in.
Do that thing on the west side of Addison.
It's news to me. Mike Cobb doesn't know. Must be some secret cabal you guys have going. What he told us about.
ED.
Some of the other parents too.
they play the state championship? Is it down at U of I, or?
Everyone had a part.
Oh, okay. Oh,
How are we
oh,
doing
good.
here?
Northern's a lot closer. U of I's. Oh.
Any progress?
Oh.
Are we making any progress?
Okay, we're going to get started. As we like to do here at City Hall, whenever we're fortunate enough to have a state championship team of any kind, we want to bring them into City Hall during one of our city council meetings and officially recognize them, and also give them an opportunity just to tell us a little bit about the season. In just a minute, I'm going to call Coach Kreft over here, and I know that certainly Adam Nissen is here, athletic director, if he wants to say a few words. But I do have an official proclamation here for our IC football team. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I am going to read some of the salient parts. Whereas IC Catholic Prep, one of the crown jewels of Elmhurst, is home to the Knights varsity football team coached by Coach William Kreft and his staff, and whereas the Knights 2018 season has earned them the state championship for the 4th time, the team won previous state championships in 2002, 2008, and 2017, and whereas the Knights' determination and drive to be the best they can be, becoming role models for future athletes in our community, have been a great source of pride for the entire Elmhurst community. Now, therefore, I, Steve Morley, Mayor of the City of Elmhurst, with great pride congratulates the 2018 IC Catholic Prep Knights varsity football team on their victory of bringing home the state championship for the 4th time, proclaiming March 5th, 2018 as IC Catholic Prep Knights Varsity Football Team Day. Let's hear it for our Knights. All right, we're going to take some pictures. I'm going to ask Coach Kreft over here first to say a couple of comments. Congratulations, Coach.
Thank you very much. First off, thank you for having us. We appreciate the honor, and just so you know, when we first make it back into town and the fire trucks and the police are waiting there at the edge, it really means a lot to the young people in our group and to our program to see that we are supported by our town. And you know, in front of the IC Catholic Prep name is always Elmhurst, and we know where we come from, and you know, that's a part of who we play for. So it's a source of pride within our program, and we appreciate the honor and how much support you show us. Just to talk a little bit about this team, and it'll be my final words about them, so I'm gonna go on a little bit. If I could choose a quality for a young person to have, or for to say is the pride of our program, I would say that the quality that I would choose that person to have would be a fighter's heart, resilience, grit. One of the people in this room, Maria Gibbons, wrote on her Facebook page that if you're comparing last year's season to this year's, last year's season was a ride down a prestige bobsled course that was silky smooth and easy sailing, and this season was more like climbing over a bunch of cliffs and swim fins. Everything that could have went wrong or been an obstacle was this year to these young men. It's a testament to their fortitude, to their character, to how they go about their day-to-day work, that they were able to overcome everything that they did. Each of these men embraced the role of next man up, and they bought into the culture of brotherhood, and that everyone is in it together, and that we rely on each other. One of the things that I think was kind of consistent over this season is when things went bad and something changed our plan, there were 3 and 4 people ready to step up and do the job that was needed and win the day. Winning the day was something that became just embraced by our team and our program during this season, because we didn't know what each day was going to hold and what was going to come next into our path. Some of the games that were just will go down in the history of our school forever. Byron in the semifinals, it took all, you know, the entire game before a point was scored, and in the last minute they willed their way to a touchdown to make it into the state final game. And then in the state final game, with pressure on the line, it was 6-0 at halftime. And just to kind of summarize their season and put a final storybook ending on it, they rose to the occasion occasion one last time and adapted and overcome and took a victory home to Elmhurst. I can't say enough about the young men and women at IC and the city of Elmhurst and just how they go about their day-to-day lives. It's an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to coach with the staff that's here and with the young men there. This season will not be as the greatest in the history of the school in terms of record, but once again, I think you measure a champion not by their record always, but by the size of their heart and by what they were able to overcome. And if you're measuring champions on that scale, then they're up there with the best teams in the history of the school. So thank you.
After we're done taking a picture, every single person who's responsible for this championship, we're going to ask that you shake all the elected officials' hands here, starting with Alderman Balliner, and we're going to go all the way around to where you're not going to trip on the stairs. Okay? All right, so let me hide behind some of these much more fit young men. You hold that. Go ahead, don't be shy. There we go. All right, we're ready for the picture now.
I'm all to do that.
Yeah.
Championship rings, is that what I'm seeing? Let me see that. That is awesome. We got everyone hold up their championship ring. Take a picture like that. Nice. All right.
That was the class ring.
What size is that?
And a number 1 in the other hand.
Are we good? Get out of here. All right, so what I'm going to ask you to do is start here.
Pretty sweet.
Awesome.
Jeez Louise.
Really awesome.
Congrats. I think I need to take up football if I can only go back to high school.
School, or is that? I know, but I mean,
Congratulations.
You gotta buy it, right? Let's see. Oh, that's really cool, though. I thought that was your
I need to know who the seniors are.
Awesome job.
Wow, all right, congrats.
Happy for you guys. Will you guys be in the parade?
You're
Okay. Congratulations.
I see 2 rings that you
Way to go.
last year. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Look at, how can you keep your hands going on this? Congratulations.
Hey, good to see you.
That's like a heavy hand.
Congratulations. Thanks for coming out, gentlemen.
Nice.
Congratulations. Wow.
Way to do it.
Nice.
I'm excited for you guys. See you at the parade on Saturday. I hope you get the double-decker bus again. Right? You've earned it.
Congratulations.
You're one of the 8
Congratulations.
All right.
Luck to you. Thanks
I
for
like the
coming
bow
out.
tie, too. Nice.
Congratulations. I love them.
Congratulations.
Awesome look.
Way to go.
Congratulations.
Nice.
Congratulations. Thanks for coming out.
So you coming back next year?
For representing us so well. You're awesome. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Love the 2-ring look. That's a good
Okay,
look. How
so
about 3? Let's go for 3.
you're not putting on the pads. What are you the writers? Ah,
Awesome.
nice. Congratulations.
Coming out and representing us so well.
Way to win it.
Congratulations.
I love the spirit. So proud of you
Congratulations.
guys.
Coming out.
Way to go.
Congratulations. Thanks for representing us so well.
Here, you coming back? You're a sophomore. All right.
Good enough for that look.
Congratulations.
Great work.
I know, you guys have a great team.
Congratulations. I feel like some of you guys have come around twice.
There's a lot of you guys. You gonna coach again?
Way to work with them. That means so much.
How many guys are on the
Remember
team?
that forever. They're going to remember that forever.
Wow. Plus coaches, yeah. Plus coaches, plus trainers. Congratulations. Congrats. Thank you. Congratulations. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for representing us so well. Congratulations.
Get out of here. What are the team?
We saw you walk up.
You never rebounded any time I coached.
Pleasure. Love to see you back.
We'll be able to. Yeah, I do. I'm like
I have been telling them, don't give that to any girls. Too many guys there to. I know. Be calling me incapacitated.
One more time.
I was gonna say, no, we're not. We need, okay. Wow. Do I need to aim it?
The mitts on some of those guys?
But there was a guy a couple in front of him, like, I look like Steve.
Agreed.
No, yeah, I wonder how much time costs.
What's your step?
Class ring.
Yeah.
I thought this was Reader's Digest.
Depends on what kind of
There should be a ramp.
jewel you want in there.
Yeah, probably greasy.
Or even a railing, yeah.
Nice and big, like a super ring. What's he say?
Oh, you want to speak?
Okay.
Oh, at the council meeting, okay.
Just raise your hand. Exactly.
Haven't gotten there yet. I'll come.
He wants to talk? Oh.
Not there yet.
All right. We are at agenda item 4, receipt of written communications from the public. At this time, is there anyone in the audience who has any written communications they wish to submit at this time? Please raise your hand. Do we want to keep that door open? Thanks, Steve. Any written communication? Seeing none, we will go on to public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the council, specifically the chair, on any issue they so choose. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes out of respect for the work that we have to do here this evening and out of respect for others who may want to talk. When your name is called, we ask that you move to the microphone on my right, your left, right next to Chief Ruth over there. We ask that you identify yourself as we are recording this. Address is optional. If you do go over your 3 minutes, I will give you a gentle reminder and ask you to wrap up. Clerk Spencer, at this time, is there anybody who has signed up for public forum?
Yes, Mayor. Lisa Gerhold? Gerhold? Ger.
Do we have?
Hello, I'm Lisa Gerhold. I was a member of the Sustainability Task Force and on the Executive Committee. Thank you to Mayor Morley for the opportunity to participate on the task force, to Alderman Polomsky for ushering the project through the system, and for the Public Affairs and Safety Committee for incorporating feedback from the task force members that have followed this project through to this point. Support for sustainability planning has grown in the 3.5 years since the project was initiated. Municipalities are embracing their central role in creating sustainable communities. I believe the city will find broad community support for the strategies outlined in the plan, and Elmhurst will join a growing group of organizations working towards a sustainable future. Here's a few examples of things that are happening in DuPage County. Sustain DuPage is a new group that's bringing together representatives from DuPage municipalities that have environmental boards and commissions. The DuPage Clean Energy Coalition is working to transition DuPage to a clean energy future by helping communities reap the benefits of Illinois' groundbreaking Future Energy Jobs Act, which will attract new companies, preserve Illinois' low energy rates, and stimulate job creation in energy efficiency, renewables, and energy innovation. The DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference has adopted the Metropolitan Mayors Caucus Greenest Regions framework, which will support mayors in their role as environmental leaders. A key part of Elmhurst's sustainability plan is its flexibility to add new strategies as they arise. Already since this project began, some of the original suggested strategies have become outdated, and new ones have arisen and included in the plan. Completing the plan document is just a start, and I urge the city to place a high priority on implementation by setting achievable target metrics, regularly measuring progress, and updating the community about what is being accomplished. I also have one specific request related to strengthening the reporting process between staff and committee. In the last sentence of the first page of the committee report, it states, because implementation is vital to the success of the plan, the committee is requesting that staff set targets for the strategies and present them to the committee in the second quarter of 2018. I think this is that's good that this is included in the report and that it specifies that staff will present targets in the second quarter. I have a question about whether it's the intention for staff to make regular reports to the Public Affairs and Safety Committee after the first one, and if so, I'd like to ask for that to be part of the process, and to recommend an amendment be made to the committee report stating that quarterly or semi-annual reports will be made by staff to the Public Affairs and Safety Committee. Regular reports to the committee will help the city stay on track, making progress toward the goals, and will help staff when it comes time to put together the annual sustainability progress report. Thanks.
Barbara Lonergan.
Barbara Lonergan. I'm a member of the Mayor's Sustainability Task Force, and I also served on the Executive Committee. In our first meeting in October of 2014, Mayor Morley stated at that time that the time to consider the formation of a sustainability commission would be once the plan had been completed and was considered by the City Council. So here we are. Approximately half of the municipalities in DuPage County have an environmental or sustainability commission. Those communities include Aurora, Batavia, Bensonville, Downers Grove, Glen Ellen, Hanover Park, Hinsdale, Lombard, Schaumburg, Villa Park, Warrenville, West Chicago, Westmont, Wheaton, Winfield, and Wooddale. Schaumburg wrote a comprehensive green action plan in 2008. To date, they've implemented 75% of their plan and have tackled items that were not originally included in the plan. The village has a green team that sets departmental priorities and an environmental committee comprised of 9 members who are incremental with public events, education, media outreach, and an awards program. Park Forest has an environmental commission comprised of community volunteers who help implement the plan as needed. Some members have subject matter expertise, many don't, but they all have an interest in making the city more sustainable. And Aurora has a sustainability board. Their duties include making recommendations to the City Council and the Mayor, addressing public concerns related to sustainable and environmental policies and practices, establishing implementation priorities, identifying financing opportunities, and engaging local residents. While we realize commissions are not formed every day, we were encouraged to learn at the last Public Affairs and Safety Committee meeting that the committee and mayor are considering a public arts commission, and the process seems rather quick and painless. As Lisa stated in her public comments, the community is increasingly in support of sustainable initiatives. Whether or not the current task force members are interested in participating in a sustainability commission, or you seek help from outside the task force, we know there is great interest from the community for these initiatives. We ask you to consider establishing a commission or an advisory group to assist with plan implementation. Thank you.
Rex Irby.
Thank you. I want to give thanks for Mrs. Polomsky and the mayor for allowing us to do the task force. We've had it for 2.5 years, 3 years. It's been somewhere in there. And so you guys are just now getting it and been reading it, and it's refreshing to be at this point to give birth to this project we've been on. So I did energy and land in the group. I'm not on the executive group, but assisted with those parts. Energy has changed quite a bit, as we've all known, due to higher energy cost. Natural gas has dropped in price, but electricity doesn't seem to be dropping. Obviously, we're on a franchise agreement for you guys for the city buildings, and it's kind of hard to beat a free lunch, but we all know there's no such thing as a free lunch. So to get our energy stuff going, we have solar panels. When we first started the commission, solar cost about 2 to 3 times what it does today in this 2-year period. So what was $7 or $8 a watt is now on your roof at $2.80 a watt. Commercial, larger pieces are down to $1 or right around $1, $1.20 a watt. So that's why the FEJA law, Future Energy Jobs Act, has a piece called community solar. So we have 16,000 rough households here in Elmhurst. 25% of those will not, or 75% of those homes will not qualify logistically because of the layout of the house, the shadows of the trees around. We're a tree city. They won't be able to have solar on the roof. And so the FEJA law has community solar, meaning you as a homeowner who are in this 75 percentile, the odds are the majority of you will be for your own homes, you can subscribe to a community solar project and have your bill credited for that value, almost like a stock exchange, but instead of buying stock, you're buying a piece of a solar panel and that energy it generates. So very exciting. The new FEJA law and these opportunities that we have to put solar on our roof or subscribe to a community solar project means that we will have to change as a city to get the lucky ones who can't get it on their roof to let them have rules so that they can land on a landing page of our website and say, oh, I see what the solar rules are in Elmhurst and I want to participate. And then my installer, he can make a plan. As it exists right now, we don't have that. So we'll need to streamline that so that we can make it easy to have solar on a roof so that we can all save quite a bit of money over the rest of our lives. And I think money's good. So again, appreciate it. And thank you for taking the time to go through our sustainability plan. I hope it goes forward and grows some legs. Thank you.
Heidi Hartman Lafredo.
Thank you for letting me speak this evening. I was also on the Sustainability Task Force and want to thank the Public Affairs and Safety Commission or Committee for recently seeing the plan through and in implementing some of the comments that the Sustainability Task Force had remaining on it recently. I just want to state my support for hopefully having the plan passed quickly and also for creating a citizens commission to help to implement the plan and sort of see through the many good strategies for sustainability that are found in the plan. I would agree. I also worked on the energy and land use portions of the document, and I'm particularly interested in seeing energy efficiency and renewable energy technologies adopted to a greater extent to reduce emissions and to also have some cost savings for both the city and residents. And again, thank you, and I'd also like to see the plan implemented and really get a lot of community involvement around that. I think there will be a lot of community members that are very excited that we have this in Elmhurst now. So thank you again.
Tamara Brenner.
Tamara Brenner. I am not going to talk about sustainability. Item 10.1 on tonight's agenda, I see, is about Lucky Motors, one of my favorite topics from the past. So you guys gave them an incentive plan of some sort, the details of which I can't remember all these years later. But I do know that they moved out of town before they completed the deal. And that was against the contract. So you tried to use a clawback provision that was included in the contract to recover some of the funds that you've given them. And that all ended up in some legal activity, and now the city's settling for something less than what they were owed, because that's what happens when you get involved in legal activity. So my bottom line is, why do we keep giving these incentives? We've just now seen an example of how the clawbacks don't work, and it's just not necessary to spend all of our public money, well, all of it. Maybe that was a little bit of a hyperbole, sorry about that. To spend public money on private companies that could be funding themselves. Please stop doing that. Thank you.
And Steve Hipskin.
But it said Steve H.
It did, but.
It's his Facebook name.
Steve Hipskin, 121 Chandler. And I can tell by everyone's attendance here tonight, you know that I'm here to talk about a very important subject. And let's take a look at Elmhurst. Over 100 years it's been around, and history is very important. We're talking about sustainability tonight into the future, and we're talking about renewing TIF plans that have been around for a while. So, you know, there's a lot of history that we're just every night that you guys deal with. But I want to talk about a really serious subject. And so let me start out with saying, okay, so the average cost of a new home would be $3,925. Wages per year were $17, $13 a year. Cost of a gallon of gas was 10 cents. Average house rent was $24 per month. A loaf of bread was 8 cents. A Studebaker car cost $665. Hot cross buns were 16 cents. A dozen oranges were 25 cents. At that same year, Jim Henson was born, David Carradine, Alan Alda, Charlie Daniels, Glenn Campbell, John McCain, Roy Orbison, Mary Tyler Moore. That year was 1936. But famous people, a lot of things have happened since then, but that was also the same year, 82 years ago, that our esteemed alderman, Norm Leader, was born. He is 82 and 1 week old today, so we're here. Norm, would you stand up? Like I said, I'm here for a very important reason. That's to wish Norm a happy birthday. And I appreciate all your help for the city and all you've done for everyone. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. That was his.
Happy birthday, Norm. Anyone else?
That's all that's signed in, and
Okay, that's it for public comment for those who signed in at this time. Is there anyone who did not have an opportunity to wish Norm a happy birthday? Or anything else that you wish to speak on? Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council at this time? Please raise your hand. Mr. Pagash.
Didn't the mayor turn 50?
today,
What?
Didn't you
is
turn
it your
50?
birthday?
No.
Claude Pogish, 566 West Gladys. Sorry, didn't sign in. The mayors and the city managers had a meeting, and they're really adamant about this amount the state wants to pull in sales taxes. Kind of indicated that if those taxes were taken by the state, services for the residents would drop off. Well, residents pay for their water. Residents pay for the removal of the refuge. Residents pay for treatment of that. They're paying for the modernization of the treatment plant. They're paying for new water lines, new sewer lines going in. They just about pay for everything. So I don't know about, they're going to lose services. The city's made an attempt to take care of flooding, built some mud holes, hold little water. But they also have an ordinance for home builders, and those homes take up more and more land. So you're trying to solve one problem now, and you're going to create another problem for a future alderman and mayors. Can't keep on covering land, digging potholes, and hope that flooding will disappear. You can't keep on giving away tax dollars and funds to commercial property for nothing. Because he told the public, we got to have these businesses. But you tax the resident for everything. Put in the street, he pays for it, you don't maintain it. They look like test streets for General Motors. See, you got the resident out there and you got him in a spot. So you just can keep on raising fees and you just can keep on taxing them. You keep on doing that, and eventually they decide to do what they're doing in the state of Illinois. They're leaving. According to the state, 55,000 people left this state last year. And this elected body is no different than the other elected bodies. I've been to them too. You all got dreams, all ideas. And the way to get it is to come up with general obligation bonds, and we're going to have it. And there's all kinds of people that want it. It's like that new railroad station.
Mr. Pogash, you're at your 3 minutes. I'd ask you to wrap up.
Well, all I can say is the legislative bodies in this town better get together, because there's only so much money the people have, and their salaries aren't going up. And if they got a choice to stay or leave, they'll leave.
Anyone else at this time who did not have an opportunity to sign in but wishes to address the council, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll move on. That wraps up public forum for this meeting. Any announcements from the dais? Alderman York.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to make sure we don't take some things for granted. And just recently, in the last 2 weeks, we've learned that the Elmhurst Finance Department has once again received the Governmental Finance Officers Association Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting Award. This is the, anybody want to guess, 28th consecutive year in a row that we've received this award, or not we, that the Finance Department has received the award. And this award recognizes individual governments that go beyond generally accepted accounting practices in preparing comprehensive annual financial reports that meet the demands of transparency and full disclosure. So I'd just like to recognize the city's finance department. Director Trezine is in the audience tonight, but it's quite an accomplishment. We had another team here tonight that had back-to-back victories. This is 28 years that we've been doing this, so congratulations, and keep up the good work. Don't slip.
Wow. Alderman Polomsky.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Elmhurst Commission on Youth is seeking nominations for the Exemplary Youth Service Award. Nominations are due by Friday. They can be found on our website if you search Youth Commission or Exemplary Youth Service Award. And also, the Commission is hosting the Youth Summer Job and Volunteer Fair on March 14th, which is a week from Wednesday, 3 to 6 p.m. at York Community High School. Though it's at York, it's open to all students, all youth, teens in Elmhurst.
Great. Any other announcements? Okay, on the consent agenda at this time, is there any item any alderman wishes to have removed, to vote no or provide further comment? Alderman Levin?
Oh, sorry. Thought you were going to make the motion. Yes. We're going to pull back the, I don't even know what item it is.
7.11.
11, yes, thank you.
You with us today, Alderman Levin?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anything else anyone wishes to have removed from the consent agenda? Alderman Bram.
Yes, 3 items, Mr. Mayor, 713, 714, 720.
13, 14, 20. 711, 13, 14, and 20. Anyone else have any items they wish removed from the consent agenda at this time? Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 7.11, 7.13, 7.14, and 7.20. Motion by Alderman Brennan, second by Alderman Park. Clerk Spencer.
Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Saludo.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Onquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Brennan.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Goiter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carries. Consent agenda is approved minus items 7.11, 7.13, 14, and 20. On to agenda item 7.11. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the recommendation.
7.11.
Yes.
I'm going to do that. He pulled it back to committee.
No.
You
No,
want-
no, he just pulled it from the agenda.
From the consent agenda.
Here, Patty, you need this?
I'm not all here tonight. I have.
Join Alderman Levin. Here, Patty,
I
right there.
had it right here. I pulled it out. It said pulled back to committee. Okay. It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Affairs and Safety Committee that the City Council approve the City of Elmhurst Sustainability Plan and that the city attorney prepare the appropriate resolution. Respectfully submitted, Scott M. Levin, Chairman, Danny Palumski, Vice Chairman, Bob Dunn.
I have my paper back.
You may. Thank you.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. By Alderman Levin, second by Alderman Palumski. Alderman Levin.
Thank you. This is the report that has been discussed earlier in public comment on our sustainability plan. It is the mayor's task force, and not only did Alderman Palumski shepherd it through, but I think she conceived of the idea. So at this point, I would turn it over to Alderman Palumski to present the report on behalf of the committee, if I may.
We have a PowerPoint?
Yes.
Great.
Got a gadget. Oh, you got a call on me.
No, go ahead. Do we have to turn it on?
Okay, no, I thought.
It'll be easier to see
I
if we
should
do
raise my hand for you to call on me to.
Oh, Alderman Palumski.
Thank you, Mayor. So it was just inadvertently on consent, and like our other plans, we're hoping to have a little bit more detail, so we've got some visual aids tonight, and I do want to speak to something Alderman Levin said. I did not conceive of this. I've been involved with residents, but this really was, it came out of an idea related to the climate protection agreement, which I'll get to, but it was really the residents that wanted to do something more, and this ended up to be the right fit. So we have on the agenda the proposed draft plan. It is the Sustainability Action Plan, which was created by the Sustainability Task Force, and I'm going to see if this works. It does, okay.
Oh, works really well.
It works perfectly. So a little background, in 2007, the then council committed to the mayor's climate protection agreement that focused largely on reduction of carbon footprint. And in 2009, the council adopted a sustainability policy to facilitate decision-making related to sustainability, which also involved, the idea was to have it involved in decisions across the council, with staff, and involving community partners. So sometimes we'll see committee reports that have something along the lines of this green fleet meets the recommendations of the sustainability policy. So it does guide decisions and continues to, and we hope that it will in the future. But that plan, or that policy, did recommend identifying specific goals, and that's one of the things that we've touched on. So though we have this specific policy, there have been those recommendations for goals, and additionally, members of the community have proposed the idea to recommit to the mayor's climate protection agreement goals. Though those have evolved a bit, and some of that commitment would require the council to take positions on a national level, perhaps send communications to federal government, and it just didn't seem to be the fit that we're looking for, which is to focus on Elmhurst. So the idea that evolved out of these discussions was a sustainability action plan that focuses on Elmhurst. Mayor Morley established the task force, which is comprised of residents in town, and we have about 5 here tonight, and representatives from different stakeholder groups like Elmhurst College, City Center, hospital, Spring Road Business Association. So we've got quite a few members, and some of those, the residents, not only are they residents, but many participants have an incredible level of expertise. It could be in energy or in water, and a lot of connections to what is going on around us. So it has been quite a remarkable group and a very active group. And the group worked to achieve what the mayor saw as our overall goal, which is to develop a plan that is Elmhurst-based and either cost-saving or cost-neutral. And the goals of this sustainability plan were to focus on waste reduction, transportation, energy, and water. Oh, there we go. So everybody has the, sorry, everybody. Okay. The, specifically, the task force, some people, even in this room, have participated in the workshop. The members of the task force helped refine a vision, some goals on how to proceed with the plan, did some background work, established a baseline, and conducted a public workshop to take a look at sort of what we'll be doing later, strength, weakness, opportunity, threat, or possible strategy analysis, and those were prioritized. And there were specific goals that were developed, and I'm not going to go through all the strategies, but you have those listed. One was increase access to and effectiveness of commingled recycling. Second was without added cost to the city, facilitate electronic and hazardous waste landfill diversion. This is all under the waste reduction and recycling. Reduce the amount of landfill waste, encourage material reuse, promote recyclable materials, and 5, provide educational opportunities for the public on the importance of waste reduction and recycling. The second of the 4 areas is transportation and mobility. I don't know if I will walk through all these. Decrease vehicle miles traveled, promote cost-effective forms of alternative fuel vehicles. Some of this, each one of these focus areas will focus on education at some point. And goal number 3 speaks to our bike plan, just to reinforce its importance to focus on that again. The third area is energy use reduction and alternative energy. So overall reduce consumption and cost, increase the use of renewable energy, and then also provide educational opportunities for the importance of energy reduction and alternative energies. If I can, okay. The last one, provide educational opportunities for the public on the importance of water issues, and I know that's something top of mind, especially for a Public Works Committee. But this talks about also pollution, educational opportunities, something we're continuing to do, addressing flooding through green stormwater practices, and also promote water conservation, energy, and reuse. Okay, so next steps and implementation. So our report does state that we're requesting that staff establish some targets. So what that means is, for example, there's a strategy that's reduce municipal water use. So we're asking staff to come up with a target, maybe a percent, a specific amount, or what they're going to do differently. So essentially, to come up with some targets to strive for the next year. There is a guide for implementation, and part of that does say an annual report in the budget process, but because we have specific strategies now, we think that's a perfect opportunity to present that update to our committee, and we can determine if there's a need for establishing new targets or adjusting any strategies. The plan itself overall will be updated every 5 years. And you know, another point that was brought up tonight, that our first goal really is to adopt this plan, and then after we have our targets, to think more about a separate commission to assist the city in carrying out some of these strategies. As most of them are education-based and reaching out to the community. Mayor, can I ask to suspend the rules so I can ask our representatives to stand that are here?
You don't have to suspend the rules for that.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
All right, well, I'm supposed to be addressing the mayor, not, can I ask the members of the Sustainability Task Force to please stand up, the ones who are here? I see you, Rex, back there, and Heidi, and, all right. These are some of the remarkable people who have spent hours here and doing research and engaging in community workshops and doing the background work, and continue that enthusiasm with wanting to work on any initiatives that we are working on. So I appreciate the work of everybody here tonight, and especially everybody involved in the task force. So here they are. So thank you to everybody. You're listed here. And everybody else who's listed, thank you so much. And that's it. Thank you.
That's it? Okay. Any other comments or questions for the committee before I ask for a vote? Alderman Bram?
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought I heard Alderman Polumsky at the end here just make mention, and I know some of the residents made mention during public forum, in regards to having a separate commission for this. I'm not sure if I heard that correctly, since I did not see that in the report itself. But for the record, I just want to state that I think that's the right direction to go. I would request that the PA&S committee review making a sustainability commission going forward. And because I think this will assist us and keep us on track moving forward with all sustainability initiatives.
Okay, any other comments? Alderman Levin?
Yes, I do. I mean, I think it is important to, first of all, I didn't have much to do with it except to sort of make sure it kept moving along, but in the brief time I got to work with the members of the task force who are showing up at our PS meetings, I could see the passion they brought to it, and they put in a lot of work even at the end in terms of reviewing the report and even down to the detail of typographical errors. And as they have spoken about the need to consider a commission, that is one of our tasks that will remain with the committee, and we will be looking at that. So again, thank you to all of you.
Okay, any other comments? Clerk Spencer?
Polumsky.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Honquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner. Brennan.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Before we go on to agenda item 7.13, I typically don't comment to stuff before council, which is why I refrained from commenting on this sustainability action plan during the voting period. But that does not mean I don't fully support this 100%. I truly want to thank, and Alderman Levin mentioned the word passion, I think that's a good word. I want to thank the members of the entire committee. Oh, good, it's up there. And really, Lisa Gearhold-Dirks and Barbara Lonergan, Danny Polumsky and Shelley Moskal, those are the ones, and I know that Danny doesn't want to take any credit for it for some reason, but those 4 people really are the ones that were kind of the seminal group that got things started. I think one of the biggest challenges that this group faced was almost every decision that we make here at the city and almost in our personal lives, if you really look at it, can have a sustainability consideration. It's a monumental task. That's part of the reason why I think it took the task force the time that it did. But I think it's because of their passion and their dedication that we ended up where we were, or ended up where we are. So I want to thank each and every one of those folks who's on this. I do look at this as kind of a living document, so to speak. Even Mr. Irby mentioned that, you know, just in the time that we formed the task force, to the time that we're passing this report, the cost of solar has gone down by a factor of 3. So just all this stuff, as technology continues to move forward, there's going to be greater and greater opportunities for the city of Elmhurst to apply this. I do think that it's a good thing that this is what I'll just call a first start in Elmhurst tackling sustainability. And again, I truly want to thank all those involved. Thank you so much for your hard work and coming up with this report. And that's it. So thank you all. On to agenda item 7.13. This is a report out of Public Affairs and Safety. Clerk Spencer, I ask that you read the report.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Affairs and Safety Committee that the City Council authorize the City Attorney to prepare the necessary documents for approval of the 2018 Explore Elmhurst Express Trolley Program, signed by Scott M. Levin, Chairman, Danny Polumsky, Vice Chairman, and Bob Dunn.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Levin, second by Alderman Polumsky. Alderman Levin, your report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the committee's report on the trolley program, a program that has grown in popularity and in scope in terms of different areas of coverage, days of coverage, and that's our report.
Okay. Any other comments? Alderman Bram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I've stated in previous years, when this pilot started multiple years ago now, the statement from the committee at that time was, after the first pilot, we'll see if it's a good program to sustain, and if so, we will consider changing the route. And I asked specifically back then in regards to making sure the route also covered North Elmhurst as well, or north of North Avenue. I think it's 4 or 5 years later. The route hasn't changed in regards to moving further north, and therefore lacking the coverage of the north residents, as well as the north side businesses, primarily being the 3rd and 2nd Ward. So I can't support this. I supported it for the pilot, I believe. It was many years ago now. My memory fades. And I think I even supported it for the 2nd year. But since then, at least the commentary that was made then of expanding it north hasn't materialized. And until I see this trolley move further north and support or come into the area for the north side residents as well as the north side businesses, I can't support it as written.
Okay. Any other comments? Alderman Toledo.
Thank you. Yeah, I will support this report, and I think the trolley program is a great program, and it really sets Elmhurst apart. With that said, the budget continues to grow every year, and I'm just wondering if there's, in the next year's program, over the course of this year, if we could take an opportunity to look and see if there's any opportunities to maybe have some of the businesses or the business districts help subsidize the program. You know, we're helping to bring people around. They're benefiting from that. So it might just be something worth thinking about, or some other funding mechanism to help offset some of the increasing costs to the city. Thank you.
Any other comments? Alderman Polumsky.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I appreciate Alderman Toledo's comments, and I think that's a good point for us to evaluate next year. But I wanted to speak to the concerns raised. One about, just really about it not going beyond the existing route. Just a reminder, this is funded with hotel motel tax, which is earmarked for visitor and tourism promotion. Just so the idea is to focus on those 3 areas that it visits, which are mostly pedestrian, shopping, dining, just as the Butterfield area is anchored by a grocery store. The north end is anchored by a grocery and a car dealership. So it is not about north or south. And additionally, we did try to see how evaluate ridership for a pedestrian-only stop. and that was extremely low ridership, so we dropped it. So this doesn't really seem to function as just transportation from a residential area. So the focus remains on visitor and tourism.
Okay, any other comments? Alderman Dunn.
Just what I want to point out is that this program has been, I was maybe lukewarm on the trolley initially when the concept was first rolled out, and but I think it's grown to a high level of success. We've experienced a dramatic jump in ridership from the previous year to this past year. It was 11,000 or so riders, up over 18,000. So a very significant jump, 50%, or actually 61%. And thus the cost per rider went down pretty significantly from $3.43 per rider in 2016 to $2.71 last year. So we are trying to optimize the cost versus the usage, and I think the route and the days and the hours have proven out, and we fully expect that 271 to go down even further, even though there was a little bump in the cost this year because we had to change our contractor from the previous one because of insurance issues, but it's we're expecting a lot more use this year, and a lot better use of the funds that Alderman Polumsky said go to provide this service. Thanks.
Okay, any other comments? Clerk Spencer.
Polumsky.
Aye.
Graham.
No.
Saludo.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Onquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Brennan.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Goiter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 nays.
13 ayes, 1 nay, motion carries. Agenda item 7.13 is approved. On to 7.14. This is a report out of Finance. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the recommendation.
Sorry, I don't have that.
It's actually the bottom paragraph.
Thank you. It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council authorize the City Attorney to prepare the necessary amendment to the YMCA parking lot lease agreement, increasing the number of spaces leased from 29 to 39, and using the annual parking permit fee rate methodology instead of the daily fee rate. And that is signed by Kevin L. York, Chairman, Mark P. Sabatino, Vice Chairman, Tina Park, and Mike Brennan.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Sabatino. Alderman York, your report.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a fairly transparent report, kind of lays everything out there, so I'd like to turn it over to the person who pulled it off the agenda.
Okay. Alderman Bram, you pulled this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one question. This is kind of a unique situation, I know, and the report clearly states that we also do this for the library and the college by leasing public spaces to an entity in this case, or in these cases being a nonprofit. My one and only question is in 2017, the cost per space per year is $520, and what is proposed in this draft report for 2018 is $400 per space per year. So I'm just wondering on why we're decreasing what we will be charging for these spaces for 2018.
Any follow-up? No, but it seems to me that 15,600 is more than 15,080, so, and it's based on the annual published parking rates. That's okay. Any other comments? Alderman Bram.
Yes, so that is an accurate statement that 15,600 is higher than 15,080, but that comes with a increase of 10 spaces from 29 to 39. Without a rationale, I'll just say that I can't support this.
Okay, any other comments? Clerk Spencer.
Polumsky. Aye. Graham.
No.
Toledo.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Conquest.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Brennan.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 nays.
13 ayes, 1 nay, motion carries. Agenda item 7.14 is approved. On to agenda item 7.12.
7.2.
Sorry, 7.20, municipal code
Yeah.
dash 08 dash 2018. Clerk Spencer, can you read the ordinance?
Yes. An ordinance amending Chapter 16 entitled Garbage and Rubbish of the City, of the Municipal Code of Ordinances of the City of Elmhurst, Illinois. Boy,
We good there, Clerk Spencer?
I think that's it.
I will now entertain a motion to approve the ordinance as read. Motion by Alderman Kennedy, second by Alderman Deuter. Alderman Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the ordinance that followed the report that we approved, I believe, 2 weeks ago for the revision to the waste contract as it resulted from the new work that we have with Allied.
Okay.
No further comments.
Any other comments? Alderman Bram.
Yes, when the report was discussed 2 weeks ago, I was not at that council meeting. My comment was the same when we talked about this during committee and also the previous tie-in, the previous dollars for the garbage and recycling. This I know is for the administration cost, but if we're level setting administration costs, I think that that should have also coincided, and that was the argument. That should have coincided with the reduction per gallon rate, and that did not. That actually seemed to increase, so I can't support this.
Okay, any other comments? Alderman Deuter.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to clarify kind of how we do set this administrative rate. And it's not, none of the fees that we charge are based on a per gallon rate, but it's the city's practice to incorporate the full cost of refuse collection into the fees that we charge to the users, our residents. The admin fee covers a small portion of the city's salary, IT, and supply costs that are directly attributable to managing the refuse contract. For example, the admin fee covers the cost equivalent to 1 full-time staff person. It's not 1 full-time person dedicated to this contract, but it's a portion of various staff positions, including the Public Works Director and our customer service and finance folks who are involved in overseeing this contract and all the work that's related to it. The admin fee also covers 2 refuse collection services that are not covered by the contract fee, the fall leaf collection and 1 citywide sweep for leaves in the fall. And as has been the city's practice in the past, we calculate the amount that needs to be generated to cover these expenses. We apply a portion of that amount to the refuse and yard waste stickers, and then we divide the remaining amount equally among households. As the report indicates, the committee made this fee equal for all users, as it is not dependent on the size of the toter used. And I do think it's worth pointing out one of the pieces of information that staff collected was related to some rates in Glen Ellen, which has been brought up in previous meetings. And, we had talked about the rates and how they're charged, and as far as I know, no one does it on a per gallon basis, but staff did try and do the best apples to apples comparison they could do of the rates that Glen Ellen charges as compared to ours. And, one of the pieces that's easy to look at is just the admin rate.
In Glen Ellen, they also level set the admin rate, and where ours is $1.45 per month, theirs is $3.43 per month. It's hard to do that direct comparison because they include different things in those rates and in the services that they cover. But I do think that's important information for residents to know. Another important piece is that the good news for residents is that the overall monthly refuse rate will decrease slightly this year, starting in April. That decrease is the result of very favorable pricing in our new street sweeping contract, which lowered the admin fee, and then Republic's contract pricing, which also decreased this year. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Clerk Spencer.
Polumsky.
Aye.
Graham.
No.
Toledo. Aye. York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Honquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Brennan.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 nays.
14 ayes, 1 nay, motion carries. Agenda item 7.20 is approved. That completes all items pulled off the consent agenda. On to committee reports. Agenda item 8.1 is a report out of Public Affairs and Safety. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Affairs and Safety Committee that the City Council authorize the city attorney to prepare the necessary documents for approval of the City of Elmhurst community grants.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Levin, second by Alderman Polumsky. Alderman Levin, your report.
Thank you. I wasn't sure this was going to show up separately as a report, and I thought the sustainability one would, so we'll take it from there. But this is the report regarding our community grant program. This program, you'll see in the materials, is funded by the hotel motel tax. Up until about 2014, it was the painful experience for the Finance Committee to try and sit and sort through these. It was changed, and we have a committee of staff and other persons who spends a lot more time looking through the applications. They held a 2-day workshop with each of the applicants to gather more information to better understand each of the programs. And they made their recommendations to public safety. The committee reviewed all of them, had questions about a couple of them. Additional information was provided and brought back to us, and we felt this was the appropriate allocation of dollars to these grantees. And that's the report.
Great. Any comments? Alderman York.
Thanks. I will be abstaining from voting on this.
Okay. Any other comments? Clerk Spencer.
Polumsky.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
York.
Abstain.
Levin.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Honquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Brennan.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
That is 13 ayes and 1 abstention.
13 ayes, 1 abstention, motion carries. Agenda item 8.1 is approved. On to agenda item 8.2. It's a report out of Finance. Clerk Spencer, I'd ask that you read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council authorize the City Attorney to prepare the necessary documents for the defeasance of the taxable sales tax revenue refunding bonds, Series 2006A, and the necessary documents for the release of the city's security in the Elmhurst Crossing Shopping Center property as appropriate. Signed by Kevin L. York, Chairman, Mark P. Sabatino, Vice Chairman, Tina Park, and Mike Brennan.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Sabatino. Alderman York, your report on defeasement.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Your Honor. So the short story on this is that the city issued some sales tax revenue bonds to fund the shopping center that sits at the corner of St. Charles and 83. The debt is entirely serviced by the shopping center owner. The city just provides a vehicle to do that. Due to some changes in the strategic plan for the shopping center owner, it's in their best interest that the bonds be retired. Unfortunately, we can't do that, so there is a provision called defeasement, which basically puts in escrow the monies to retire the bonds, and they get paid out during the normal course of time. They're off the city's books as far as a debt is concerned, but again, this is a private debt. It's been funded by an additional party. So it's kind of a report that outlines a series of things that's going to occur in order to defease the bonds. Does that make it clear?
Clear as mud. Any other comments? Clerk Spencer.
Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Onquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Brennan.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carries. Report, agenda item 8.2 is approved. On to reports and recommendations of appointed elected officials. Mayor Morley, that's me. Two quick reports, two quick items. One is, I'll remind council, we are having a committee of the whole immediately following this meeting to discuss our ongoing review of our strategic goals. Two is the Elmhurst St. Pat's Parade is this Saturday, the 10th, and it kicks off at the corner of Spring and Wilson starting at noon. And we do have confirmation that our own Governor Rauner will be attending, I want to say, for the 5th year in a row, 4th year in a row, 4th year in a row. Anyway, St. Pat's on Saturday. Hope to see you all there. Starts at noon. City Manager.
Nothing to add to that. Thank you.
Any other reports? Alderman Bram.
Just two requests, one of which there's been a lot of positive change in our downtown, economic development-wise. I was wondering if there's been a lot of talk about the former Plas location, the former Rainbow location, and I believe it's still current, but the current Kmart location. I don't know if it's former yet or not. If there's anything to speak to tonight, I would appreciate a status update on those especially. I know the developments of Opus and FFC is moving forward at a quick pace. The other item, I just wanted to make mention, Mayor Rahm Emanuel publicly communicated on the 26th, I believe, an $8.5 billion deal to dramatically expand O'Hare, and this is quoted off of the Channel 7 webpage. This is an 8-year plan, and it also makes a statement that it could double in size. O'Hare could double in size if the plan is approved. And I think it made mention somewhere in there in regards to number or the tripling of something or other. I don't know if that was the concourses or not. But if there's any additional information in regards to this multi-year $8.5 billion expansion and how this will impact and increase the number of flights at O'Hare, because obviously that is a large concern, especially on the north side of town. That would also be appreciated if that is available tonight or in an upcoming meeting.
Okay, Old Plas Building, Rainbow, and Kmart, and the O'Hare expansion. No additional information at this time on this, Alderman Brand, but we will get back to you. Any other reports? Seeing none, we will go on to resolutions. Agenda item 10.1, Clerk Spencer.
A resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a settlement agreement and general release.
Isn't there a little more to that?
That's all I have here.
That's all that's on the agenda.
Oh, okay. To put this before council, I ask for a motion to approve as read. Motion by Alderman Levin, second by Alderman York. Before we move to any discussion, now that it is before us, the city attorney has something he has to read into the record.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This represents a settlement agreement between the city and Lucky Motors in connection with a sales tax agreement that was entered into by both those parties. The city filed suit against Lucky Motors for a breach of that agreement. This settlement represents Lucky Motors' agreement to pay the city $77,000 and additionally agrees that it is not entitled to any portion of $23,000 previously paid to the city. Those are the significant points of the settlement, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay. Any other comments or questions as it relates to this motion? Alderman Levin?
Yes. I think it's important to note that the city takes these clawback provisions seriously. We do expect all of the people we enter into these agreements to perform, and when they don't, we take appropriate legal action. And just like any other lawsuit, the resolution can be through trial. 95% of lawsuits are resolved through settlement. And this is, our attorneys have advised us, and there is an agreement that these are the best terms upon which this matter could have been settled. So they did a good job, and I'm glad to put this behind us.
Any other comments? Alderman Branham?
Yes, this is a difficult one for me because it does state a lot in regards to our stance when we feel that any agreement, especially a clawback, is not adhered to by those who are receiving any type of incentive from us. I do think that we should continue to stand our ground and hold accountable this business, Lucky Motors, for what at least is perceived in my eyes of not holding up to the agreement. So I will not support this resolution.
Okay, any other comments? Clerk Spencer?
Polumsky.
Aye.
Graham.
No.
Toledo.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Onquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Brennan.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Goiter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 nays.
13 ayes, 1 nay, motion carries. Agenda item 10.1 is approved. On to agenda item 11. Any other business? Motion to adjourn. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Honquist. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you. Take a 5-minute break.